So the second law of ideal judgment is definitely the most controversial because it stands in opposition to the idea or any idea of a arbitrary morality because it lays down very firmly what is on one side and what is on the other side. We go deeper into that with our Georgist dialogue, so you'll have to stay tuned for that. But for now, as far as the definition, we're really talking about standards and ideals. The crux of the idea is that the forms you see in the world are reflecting the universal law. So certain qualities only ever occur in very particular ways. So, if you think about something that's stable, it's always the qualities of stable things are the same things. For example, the strength and the stability of a tree, and the strength and the stability of a pillar. If you look at anything, if you're going to look at the animals that run fast, they're all going to have similar. It's going to be a similar mechanism that's making it so that they can do so. The whole history of engineering is on that basis, finding some say stability law that applies that can be manipulated in different ways, but as long as you're meeting certain conditions, you'll be successful. The first articulation of such a standard or ideal was or at least the earliest known, would be in the Egyptian ceremony of the weighing of the heart ceremony, the feather of truth. This is the first standard or concept or depiction of the idea of a standard. And this standard of form goes hand in hand with a standard of change. Well, the ceremony was as follows. You have Tahuti, the god of measurement, magic, mathematics, science, the mind, thinking. He's constructed a apparatus that is going to measure the soul of the pharaoh. So there's two ideas going basically against each other here. You have the heart, which is something that's always changing all the time. Your heart feels, you feel this way, you feel that way. In the period of a day, it can go through many different changes. And then you have the thing that isn't changing, and that's the feather of truth. So in order to choose a standard, which in this case was the feather of truth, you have to have some understanding of the thing that changes. So if we're understanding a changing heart, we know that things that are happening in the soul could be measured in some way by proxy in the heart. Your heart doesn't lie, at least not to yourself. Everything that you do, good or bad, you're going to feel it in some way. And this is something we all know, but then something that the ancients would have known as well. That there are basically two opposing positions that the heart can have, like a heaviness and a lightness. So the heaviness, your heart is heavy when things are in discord, when you're not doing what you should be doing. That's when you have a heavy heart. But when you do good things, your heart's going to be light. So, based on that understanding of the changing heart, you can pick something that would reflect the good part. So you can test to see whether the heart is reflecting the lightness, which would be the good, or reflecting the heavy. So in order to do that, you have the personification. You find the personification of the quality that you're desiring to measure. And in this case, the quality we're looking for is lightness. So the embodiment of lightness would be a feather. So not any particular feather, but feathers generally. So this is why it's conceptual. It's not a literal depiction, but it's strong, and you can't. The whole Socratic method really can't has no real foundation without this logic. So any change that would be good change should reflect. There should always be a standard that you can find once you understand how the thing that's changing changes. There should always be a standard that would reflect that quality that you can measure to see if it really does or does not have that quality. Today it's not very popular to say that there are standards of any kind, because the idea of like arbitrary standards of, individual even individually determined arbitrary standards are what's encouraged and what is, held dear in a lot of ways. So that's, I think, where the resistance to that part is or lies. But as we'll see in the Georges dialogue, it's attacks on those standards that allows for pretty much every bad thing, pretty much every evil thing that we see in society. Pretty much everyone. But if you stick to the standard, and it's a standard that's based on understanding of lawful change, you're always gonna be in the good. Your progress may be slow, but you're always gonna be honest. And you can trust the standard because they're there. The fact that they're existing. It's like every animal that you see flying, they're all using wings. Something like wings. Nobody's doing something else. So there's a reason why that's happening. That's what the idea of the standard is. There are particular ways how particular things can happen, and there can be some variation in how it looks like it's happening, but the underlying process is the same and consistent everywhere.